Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to talk about good places to hide your guns. Okay. Now I'm making a point of making this video well in advance of any gun bans or gun confiscations, anything on national level, so that I'm not making a video about telling people to do something illegal. Okay, because right now it is perfectly legal for you to hide something that you own that is legal to own. Okay, so it is perfectly legal to own an AR-15. Okay, and it is perfectly legal right now, as of the making of this video, to have 30-round magazines and even 100-round magazines, 100-round drums rather. So what we're going to talk about is how, good place to hide them. Now, obviously, if you own lots of land and you have farming equipment, yeah, I mean you can dig a hole, get a waterproof container, put the stuff in there, and it'll be impossible for anybody to find, especially if you're typically working the land like I do, because I'm always digging it up, plowing it, so the land, is disturbed everywhere. So there's no way that somebody coming in and looking at it would say, okay, this looks like freshly, this looks like it was recently dug up. There might be something hidden there. In fact, if I was to hide something like that, what I would do is, after I buried it, I'd seed it, and I would, I wouldn't disturb that. I'd let the grass grow, and basically, I would take measurements, like from some tree or from two different points as to where I buried something, so I could find it in the future if I ever needed to. Okay. Um, Now, for a lot of people, that's not an option. They don't have lots of land and equipment to hide things, so they kind of have to hide it either in their house or around their house. Okay. Now, one of the easiest places to hide things is in the sheetrock inside your walls. Okay. And the reason for that is because sheetrock is something that's easy to cut open, easy to close back up. Okay. And if you do a nice spackling job, it's almost and paint it over, it's almost impossible, or it can be impossible for anybody to know that the sheetrock has been cut open. um, and furthermore, as you go through a house, especially one that's a few years old, there will be disturbances in the sheetrock anyway. So anybody coming into an old house and looking at the sheetrock is going to say, okay, everything looks bumpy in here. Basically they'd have to tear out all the sheetrock in the entire house. Okay, and the question becomes, well, why wouldn't they do that? Well, um, if they do that to enough people and they don't find anything, that's going to really make them look bad. Okay, and they'll create lawsuits and all that sort of stuff. So basically, we are basically playing the odds that a good number, at least 50% of the population in this country, probably don't own guns. Um, and we're basically hiding within those numbers. Okay, so let's talk about how to hide anything within the sheetrock. Okay, now there might be other options, like you might be able to hide it in the basement, under the floorboards, in the attic. But the nice thing about sheetrock, it's everywhere in your house. It's and you can hide it anywhere. You could open up a hole in sheetrock anyway. Now, inside the sheetrock, what you're gonna find is studs, and I have here a couple of examples. Okay, and these studs are typically going to be usually every 16 inches apart. Okay, they'll be like this, I'll put it like this. And if you look on the tape measure, okay, if you look on the tape measure, the 16-inch mark is usually marked with this one has an arrow on it, but it can be a diamond, it can be a heart. So there'll be a mark at 16, there'll be a mark at 32, and so on. Okay, there's a mark at 64. So every 16 inches there will be a mark. So once you find the stud, one stud, you can measure out to every other stud. Okay, now because the studs are positioned like this, okay, because basically, even if somebody were to drill a hole through the sheetrock and try to to look inside, let's say with some type of a small camera, they're only going to be able to see 16 inches. So that means that they have to drill a hole every 16 inches. And then there's all sorts of other stuff running through the walls, like plumbing and electrical equipment, that would prevent them from seeing high or low. So there's all sorts of viewing obstructions inside the wall. Okay. Now, first of all, what we want to do is we want to buy a cheap, reliable gun. And I have here a Palmetto. This Palmetto cost me $350. Okay, not including the scope. Basically, the lower was $130. The upper was $220. So basically, $350 for the whole gun. And this is a gun that's cheap enough that you can buy two. And you're gonna want to buy two, okay? Because if you only buy one of this type of gun, at some point you're going to miss it. You're gonna be like, man, I'd like to shoot that gun. So that's why you need to buy a second gun, so that you can have an exact duplicate of that gun that you can shoot whenever you want to shoot. So that way you will have no incentive to want to open up the hiding spot and shoot that gun that you have in hiding, because you have an exact duplicate of that gun. Okay, so this is a good gun that you would want to do this with a Palmetto AR-15, and then you can get a bunch of these. These are Lancers. PMags are just as good. You want to get a couple of these magazines, throw them in there, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna, decide where you wanna put the gun in your house, right? And you're gonna find that stud, okay? And what we're gonna do is, let's say, you have these two studs, right? You're gonna take out the sheetrock. Hold this like this. You're gonna take out the sheetrock. Gonna take out the whole thing, cut it with a razor, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a false stud in there. Because basically if somebody drills into this, right, they know that these things are 16 inches apart. What we want to do is reduce the risk that they'll see this gun. Because if these two are 16 inches apart, well, this rifle only takes up, a certain amount of space. And if you put it diagonally, you'll probably take, you might even be able to hold it upright, diagonal like this. So it'll take up even less space. So what you're going to do is, where you have these two pieces of sheetrock at 16 inches, okay, you're going to take, these studs at 16 inches, you're going to take another stud, right, you're going to put the gun, let's say there, right, and you're going to put this inside this. So basically we're putting in a false stud that's going to run all the way up. So at any point in time they were to poke a hole here and try to look in, they'll see this stud here, and they'll think that this is, basically they're between the studs. Okay, they would have to get lucky and actually, if they're going along drilling holes every 16 inches, trying to peek in, they would have to get lucky and basically hit this spot instead of this spot here, which is the larger area. Okay, so what you're gonna do is, once you put this false stud in, you'll put your sheetrock in. You'll put the fresh piece of sheetrock over this. Now, basically, in order for this to come out right, you have to have some experience working with sheetrock. If you're a homeowner, there's a good chance you probably do. If you don't, you basically get yourself some stud and and practice. You can set this up outside and practice. Set up like a dummy wall. You can be outside or in your garage and practice building. Putting up sheetrock. Spackling it, painting it over, to see how straight you can get it. Okay, so this is a good place for you to hide things. It could be anything. You could basically hide diamonds or money or anything that you want to stay well hidden, but at the same time want to be able to access it pretty easily and pretty quickly, because the sheetrock, you can just cut it open. Or even just break it open with a hammer if you really needed to get to it really fast. So there's an idea for you guys as far as hiding things. And like I said, it is not illegal for you to hide things that you legally own. Okay, so it's perfectly legal for you right now to hide guns. Okay, if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it. If you're not a member of my channel, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.